Everyone. So I have to do like a second round, but I'm like scared if I do it, if it's actually really recording. So let me put my sunglasses on because I'm at my way home. So I ended up getting some drugs. I ended up getting. So I ended up getting some groceries from the school because like you can grab groceries. Oh, this is all remnant of when I used to take like classes like rigorously for my school age teaching. I actually can be like a school age teacher in Arizona, but these little kids, they kind of annoy me. So, um, but not that they annoy me. I just think there's so it's almost like being a teacher. It's like being in the Olympics. It really does require, at least in my heart, the uh, best of the best for your own community. And so, anyways, round two, groundwork. I was gonna call it ground beef. Um, and so when I came up with stand your ground, I'll just like briefly like share. And I didn't really have anything like prepared, so I don't know if the first thing will be the same as the second one because it's a little hard to speak the same thing unless you like write it out and then you're like, oh my god. But I didn't intend it that way because I don't think that people keep track of themselves that often, and especially in the group setting, you know, it's powers and numbers. But individually, when you're like on a jousting match or you're wrestling match or you're in a boxing match or MMA match, it's just you and yourself and your own thoughts, and that is really important too because those decisions to just say fuck it are really not my cup of tea anymore. So, anyway, um, so stand your ground is also uh, remnant in that I was at the Salvation Army, the rehab, and the story is um, we were working at the big warehouse, and then we ended up having to go to Green something like a Greenville warehouse. So I'm in the back, like irritated. It's like a smaller group this time, and Michael, there's one of the many Michaels, I mean, and he goes, Lua, you know what I do for you? And I was like, Michael, worry about yourself, okay? And I was like, why don't you just stand your own ground, okay? And he was like, ooh, and I was just arguing. And so when I came home or when I left, I started like integrating like in of that my my plan and so about divas and depression because I truthfully in our culture and in my culture, it's almost like a coin flip. Um, we really don't seem to always have the fluffing it on on an understanding in terms of um, how is this guy gonna get married or how is this um, how is this guy gonna work and feed himself? Um, so in and of that, the absence or the gaps of time during the day, what happens is there could be a lot of, the word is idle time, meaning um, time alone or hostile situations, like someone holding hostage the Fafa finger who's like 12 feet tall and help help her or something like that. It's like I don't think you're really helping her or protecting her. I think it might be the other way around. And so in stand your ground, um, I I noticed that in and of my experience, I was like, what the fuck? And I wasn't the type of person to be like, do you know who I am? Because Reese Witherspoon, she was, on the news, and it was like, Good Morning America, and they're like, Reese Witherspoon, Ryan Phillippe's ex-wife or wife, Reese Witherspoon gets pulled over on the freeway, and that she says, "Do you know who I am?" So she gets on the she apologizes like a day or two later, but she ends up saying, no, she's sorry. And so I've like keep watching her and stuff like that. And she's been like, sometimes like when you do so much, it's like, and you end up getting pulled over for something so meager, minuscule and so unimportant, and they treat you really badly. It gives you insight not only to how others are treated, but with what we already have and know, we have such a. Should have went the other way because there's like a group of cars. Um, I, eh, I feel like it was just shocking to me, and so there are a few things that prepared myself in terms of still or standing my ground. I gotta go all the way. I don't know. Oh, there. All right, excuse me. Um, So there are a few things that came along standing my ground. So I used to um, you know, party with my cousin and stuff, who really didn't like give me an idea that was ruining my life and stuff. And when I did, she would tell me things like an idiot that she is, that my sister would talk to her about me, and then she would tell me, she's like, "Yeah, your sister said, and then this, and then I asked my dad if he can borrow a car and if he can pay for everything." It's like, didn't you guys not have a job, or whatever? But and then she was like, "Yeah, but I just walk all over my dad, or whatever." So I ended up uh, realizing that she's like, "Oh, something about your sister," and I was like, "Oh," and then for me, when I heard my sister say that, it gave me like an idea of where my sister was. But because like my family like prized her after my dad died and like pushed me out of the way, they really only saw a benefit of somebody bringing like an income, or like if you like look at her husband, it's like, oh my god, he's our new like backup plan, like I was like, okay, I just want to know if she's safe and if he's going to give her quality. That's all I care about. Oops, spoiler alert. He passed the test. Good job. I didn't have to, tackle him to the floor like Troy. But I got an idea of when, information started to spew out from like not being in a position where people are on their best behavior, and it reminded me of a time when the kids like come in and they're like, "Mr. Lua, we know who ruined the bathroom," and I start screaming at them. It was like almost 20 years ago, or like 15 years ago, and I was like, God, it's like, just clean it up, throw some bleach on it, and shut up. But since then, there's a quote by Maya Angelou, and she's like, I am convinced that we get older, but we never grow up. And so, in all of this, like writing my memoir about being a certain age, and then going from one pivotal point to another pivotal point. Ooh, the cars are on point today. And then going from one pivotal point to another pivotal point, and then being in this like group, I wanted to write about that because I feel like having worked with men and being around women my entire life, and then putting my hand on my hip and standing my ground against other gays or whatever, there's this like idea when the truth isn't spoken and no one is speaking, that you can still stand your own ground and your own truth, and it be what it is as you move forward through your plan, so that way you can get through your own depression. And so my mom, years ago, when she became depressed, my dad had a schedule. Okay. My dad had a schedule. It was Monday through Sunday, And the food schedule was Monday through Wednesday, mom cooks. Thursday, dad bought the biggest pizza in town. Friday, we ate out. Someone did a food run. We ate out and went to a football game. Saturday morning, we ate at Dino's Burgers on First Street, where they left me. And then occasionally we go to Yellow Basket or whatever. And then Sunday, we had King's Table. We went to King's Table. So King's Table turned into Country Harvest Buffet. And they have like this Asian seafood place now. But when my dad died, Saturday morning, that should have been, feeding the whole family or whatever. I wake up and I hear my mom, go put that food in the car. My brother just got the ugliest tattoo in the world. And they were both still drunk, so they were like bouncing off the walls or whatever. And I walk in and she's crying. And I was like, ugh. So I start slowly putting it in, but when she's putting the food inside the car so that way she can take it to church. So this big old Suburban she donated to somebody as if I wasn't alive, or needed a vehicle. So I ended up hearing her say, because the boys were saying, it's like, it doesn't make sense for you to give so much. It doesn't make sense for you to help other people. Or the church, they hate you. They don't care about you. They hate us. And then my mom said, it makes me feel better. And so I was like, ooh. So I ended up starting to, I took that and I ran with it. And one of the first things, I hope this thing is recording, because testing, mic check, 1, 2, test me and you'll fail, test me and you fail. Okay, so I ended up starting to serve, and so one of our first initial service work started at the fire station motel, not a hotel, it's a motel. So over there on Harbor Boulevard, there is this big old werewolf, hotel, and it's has a water park inside, and it's theme park, and it's super cool, and it's a main attraction, for Disney or whatever. And so what happens is they have that there. But when I was thinking, I was like, business wise, Jesus Christ. When I was in Chandler, Arizona, I realized that when I was holding signs for the sober living program, when I was holding signs, I was like, God, these rich people who have an income, a community that is in a bracket or an account fiscally not as bad as other than all business owners, other than just warehouse workers and potential professionals in this human services world. They have a really beautiful home. And so anyways, if you ever notice in Chandler and Tempe, and then around Mesa, Arizona, they have in Mesa, Arizona, they have beautiful homes that they end up facilitating. And so that's where Fire Station Hotel is, or used to be. When I was at Fire Station Hotel, God, I'm so out of breath. When I was at Fire Station Hotel, we used to take food there. What we did is initially, the way it works, so in the Samoan culture, the children serve the parents. Rather than in other brown cultures that are not Samoan or Pacific Islander, the children are served by the parents. The parents do everything for the children, not in a bad way, but with the intent that the experience is nothing like what they went through. That's totally fair. It's totally fair in their own way. However, for myself, we didn't really have that. So in the Samoan culture, we non-existent and stuff like that. But non-existent. And in the church, our particular preacher in our assemblies, so it's they have some from LA area, some from the Oceanside area, some from San Diego County, And what we do is we gather together as a church and we like worship the Lord. But that's usually for the old people. We don't have that for the young people. And so what happens is there's no particular um, program that helps develop um, the youth. But for some reason, our pastor was like, "I really believe the youth should start leading the youth." And my cousin and I, let me take a seat here. My cousin and I, we start running the youth group. And what we do is we were getting crack. Just kidding. No, not that, but hang on. Ooh. What we did is, oh my god, it's so hot in here. So, aside from all the superstitious old traditional people ways where, it's, oh my god, it must be done this way or this is gonna happen. The sun and the moon and the stars are this way. That kids can't have a life. And and so I really believe that not only outside of having a family that was successful or being a part of a family that is successful and then having been successful growing up in the game and then growing up with shame, that I really feel like that there was a higher power or a hand that was in most incidents it wouldn't have happened. And so we kind of took this opportunity to what the our motto was we were like 15, 16 years old, and I stopped drinking when I was 17, and then I picked up drinking again when I was 21 because it was appropriate. Was like the champions of tomorrow, choose start today, and we used to go around and we'd buy. What we did is we bought hot dogs. We bought hot dog buns, and then we would get these potato chips that were about like 40 for like $10 or something like that. I think it may have been like 8 or like $9 then. And then what we did is we ended up buying like no, it wasn't Tang. It was just those big old Smart and Final like corn syrup thing. So we would go and we would set up a table. It's a fold up table, and we'd go to Fire Station Motel, and what would happen is we would walk door to door. And so if you look at the video, and I'll probably show like, see if you look at these pictures right here. So if you look at the videos, you'll see that we'd walk door to door and we're like, hi, we're from the church of so and so, and we're moving about here and there, whatever. And we just wanted to say that if you guys want to come and grab some snacks, we just had some snacks. And there's a girl who could like really sing, and then my cousin played soccer or whatever. It's like the only black soccer player in California. And then we had this like minute. We had this prophet who came to California, and so there was a school, and he was from Brazil, and he spoke over us. And when he spoke over us, he said something to me that, in and of while receiving and enduring what I was going through. So, in junior high and elementary is where like the main meat of the book is going to be at, and it's going to be like every day, like here's the schedule, and then like every day, and then what it would be like with my dad. And um, in and all that, the experience was so different because we would go door to door, and that we would we'd ask them if they wanted anything, and we used our gifts and talents in of that we were trying to cope. At least for myself, we were trying to cope, but we were also trying to share the message of what our faith was. But it's it's so different now because when you get an understanding that everybody has pretty much the same faith in that we're human and like it's all intricately woven together. It's not. It's never really a um, someone above another thing. So this preacher in Arizona said, we all have the same Bible, but the Bible, the Christian, we all have the same Christian Bible, but we don't worship Christ the same in every country. And so Christ in how we see it. So in all of in all of my experience in coping through my own depression is and sharing my faith. There is one thing that when I was younger, it was Mother Teresa, which is why I like so competitive in terms of like service and like kindness, is because she said to preach the gospel at all times and when necessary use words. And so it's one of those things where it's like no one really wants to hear you talk about what they already know. Like no one wants to hear it. They just want you to prove it and show it and live it. And that's all you got to do. And like if that's what God wanted for you, that's what God wanted for you. And so a lot of times when I went through my depression, a lot of people struggled with not only me telling the truth in terms of my homosexuality or my fa'afafing or my gender in terms of like androgyny or trans or being a man or whatever. No one ever really understood that, but that was something that I felt that in and of. I'm totally sitting in the chair right now. Hi. Oh my goodness. I don't. I noticed that on these things when you record them, then none of it shows up the way it does like when someone is like a celebrity. But if you're ever looking at the Niwafe, I apologize if I say it wrong. So he has really good. I haven't tasted it, but he has really beautiful looking pastries, and I think he does deliveries. I don't know anybody in New Zealand or Australia, but it'd also be one of those beautiful things to see, like a walk-in. They're called storefronts here. So in America we have Cupcake Wars, and so Cupcake Wars is where they do like a table setting. And they do it at a certain time. It's theme wise. Then they do flavors and ingredients, and then they win to have it at an event. But the money that they win for that event, it ends up going to a walk-in store typically, or storefront. And the storefront is like if you're just passing by and you see it and you're like, oh my god. And the storefront is like a, walk-in kitchen, bakery, come some tables and stuff like that. So I don't know if you know there's if you ever knew that like I'm one of like the least talented Polynesians in my culture, but because of our family name, it's like up there in a sense that some of us have made it in success. But I always only ever knew that one, to stand my own ground and stand in my own faith and belief. But then I also knew that I could do something that I wanted to do, and it always sounds like very cliche in terms of like, you know, change the world, work at the White House. And then I did like research, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't even realize that I, these things are actually possible. So um, the reason why I wanted to write the book is because then when I was saying these things about believing in yourself and working at a young age, and working in in college and working in after college, and always taking those opportunities to rise above, and then once you take those opportunities to rise above, to be able to help others understand how to do that for themselves, and then go about doing that if you can in your own journey as a looking for your own family, in and all of that. I was just like, maybe it's not enough. I was like, maybe I'm just too depressed. Maybe I'm ugly or not good enough. And then so it, it's just one of those things that really took me like years and years to get over, because after all is said and done, like I it was just something timing wise, and it just had to happen. And so, oh, thank you. Thank you. So um I oh, I didn't even like that's a filter. Nope, that's no. Okay. So thank you. So I in Stand My Ground and Divas Depression, there was there are these things where in and of going through depression as a fa'afafine or as someone with depression, we learn first in man class. It's like, is that a man? I'm just kidding. Um, that outside of our identity as a man, we look at it through a different perspective. And let's look at a man as a storefront or a business. And let's look at his life and every day as like an operating business. We look at that, we take inventory. And then when we take inventory, it helps us measure and gauge our own self. So let's say the first year of business, it looked like this. So, for example, my first year of my dad passing was the new beginning of such and such. So, the first year, we went to Fire Station Motel. We walked door to door. We walked door to door, and then what we did is um, you know, we gained experience by taking the money little by little, building it up, working on the weekends, doing some stuff for free, and then doing some. Well, pretty much we just did it based on donation. Actually, there was no charge, which is why I don't have anything for sale at this moment. And um, so, in and of that, there's an emotional part too, and in and of that too, there are gaps in the past. In of that, when you go through life, um, a lot of unanswered questions become the fruition of what we are today. And so one of my favorite stories in the Bible in of that is like Joseph, because he names his son, his two sons, one of them is fruition. And it's because his son becomes the fruition of of what he had always been, or what he had been. And so it's like the the beautiful thing is that, anyways, all right. So when when you uh, when you when you go through that, you start to realize that from being diagnosed with um, chronic severe depression, and then when you go through when you go through chronic severe depression, and then you find yourself in a place of healing, and the doctor's like, the past is behind you, you're fine. And I'm like, suck on that, Satan, or whatever. You end up seeing in of yourself that when you still go on with your life, um, you notice the people that you came across, but you also notice that everybody didn't gain back everything they lost. And so when I was going through recovery, I met like a lot of cool people in the streets, a lot of cool people in recovery, a lot of people who just got out of prison. And in and of all of that, when I went through that, I knew that I was also part of that group, that my family wasn't going to come support me. They attacked me a gazillion times. The Samoan community, outside of my own, relative tree, hated my guts. Like almost to like biblical, like wickedness, pretty much. And I had no idea, but other than the fact that they just blamed me for things that they were hocus pocus, superstitiously thinking that had been, that had just been in the air because of my homosexuality. And so it's something where in and of this experience where I created these 5 like programs in the newsletters. So you'll have the Storm Retreat, which is like the LGBT part, the Pine, which is like the general part, like either for women or men who are just going about their workday. You have the Money That Matters things, like people who still want to live fabulous but like kind of struggle. Then you have all these other programs and stuff, because it reminded me of like who's gonna like say hey to them or something. And so, anyways, if and when you go through Divas and Depression, standing your ground, you have to remember prior to who you have become in this depression that you're, like you were a happy person before. And so I use a lot of references from my childhood, because a lot of times I think the childhood version of myself would would have would have would have would have been a lot stronger. And so sometimes like the younger version of yourself could be the strength that you need to get through, depression, and almost like a miracle or a miracle. And so I this would be like the first. I'm doing like 10 more or sessions, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna um, next week is, or I think I need it because I want to kind of like get it done quicker, and I'm gonna totally edit this too. Hopefully, the audio saves. Um, Next week is, so stand your ground. You stood your ground, right? And someone is testing your integrity or your identity, and you feel threatened, and you're not showing it. Now, the next session is um, did your crown fall down? Did your crown fall down? Yes or no? If it's a yes, then the queen inside of you must step up. So if the queen inside of you steps up, then your the queen inside of you is supposed to help you pick up your crown. So in the game of chess, the queen is supposed to go and stand up for the man. And so next week I'll talk about that and my depression and being able to say, hey, back the fuck away from my king. So, all right. I'll talk to you guys later. Love you. Bye.